Hey there, and welcome to episode 65 of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast, where today I am chatting with seasoned marketing strategist Rachel Coles all about the importance of protecting your mental health as a mompreneur, a topic that just isn't talked about enough. Join us as she shares her journey of managing her mental health challenges during and after pregnancy and as a mum trying to grow her business, her strategies for recognizing and addressing burnout, and how she has increased her confidence and inner strength and found balance between work and family life by aligning her business with her core values. Before we dive in, I just want to mention that this episode features discussions around postnatal depression, traumatic childbirth, anxiety, and PTSD. If you or someone you know has been through or been impacted by any of these things, I am sending you my love. This may be an episode that is difficult to listen to, and I totally understand if you choose not to. But I encourage you to if you can, as I truly appreciate Rachel's vulnerability and bravery for sharing her journey and want you to know that you are not alone and that there is support out there. So a little about Rachel. She's a mum and owner of the marketing agency Convert Marketing. She excels in translating visions into impactful realities. With a blend of creative flair and a data-driven approach, she's adept at crafting and executing dynamic marketing strategies that elevate brand awareness, foster engagement, and propel revenue growth. Her journey as a mother fuels her passion for excellence, instilling in her a deep sense of responsibility and dedication to every project that she undertakes. Rachel's commitment to both her family and her business reflects her unwavering determination to succeed and make a meaningful impact in the world of marketing. Taking care of our mental health and well-being isn't a luxury, it is a necessity. And so, with that in mind, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mompreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mompreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. Yeah, hey Rachel, welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No problem. So glad when you put your application in to be on, and the topic that we're going to be diving in today is so needed. So I'm really glad that you've offered up and prepared to just be vulnerable and share your journey. And I know you've got some amazing tips of how we can protect our mental health as mums and juggling businesses and all of the things. So before we dive into all of the goodness, just in case anybody watching, listening hasn't met you before, do you want to just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, your family, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so I'm Rachel and I'm now a business owner. So I run a marketing agency called Convert Marketing. I am the mum of one. So I have one son who is about to turn 3, which is terrifying. And we live in Brentwood in Essex, which is very nice, but very towy land.
Awesome. And I know we were just chatting just before you jumped on, and I knew that you were in the UK. And then when you shared where you were, it's just like, oh my goodness, we're like almost neighbours, actually, aren't we? I think aside of one other person who is actually a coach friend that is in the same town as me. Yeah, you are literally like the next person nearest. It's like, no way, I cannot believe that actually we're neighbours. That is so funny. So it's great to have someone more closer to home on the show as well. Fantastic. I love having all of my guests, and it's great interviewing all of the ones over in the US and everything. But to know that just like something, oh, we're neighbours, that's great. So
In the car and see you.
yes, definitely. We should totally do that. So I know we're going to be diving in, and you mentioned all about like on your application about your journey with postnatal depression, mental health in the workplace, and the importance of it, and like your journey to returning to work and everything. So I think, do you want to just start with your like your whole journey from all of that and how it's got you
Yeah.
to where you are now?
Yeah, so it's quite a long one. So I had mental health problems before I actually found out I was pregnant, but they were kind of kept at bay, like ticking along, just kind of dealing with it. And then when I fall pregnant, I think the hormones and everything else just made me go absolutely like full on mental breakdown mode. So during pregnancy, I had antenatal depression. I then had some family problems during my pregnancy, and actually, I'm now estranged from my parents. So that probably tells you what happened there. Um, so when I actually gave birth to my son, obviously, I'd experienced all of that in the lead up to pregnancy. I had a really traumatic birth, so I almost actually died in childbirth. Very close to having a full hysterectomy um, straight after the birth of my son. He was born perfectly fine and really healthy. And I remember actually on the operating bed being like, at least my son is okay. If I die, he's healthy, it's fine.
Yeah.
Which so after that, I then started obviously navigating parenthood, had a child that was feeding non-stop. I was exhausted, still recovering from this traumatic birth. I hemorrhaged again about a month later after giving birth at home. And then about 6 weeks later, I got diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD, which came as a huge shock to me. I always thought PTSD is if you're in war or you've been in a war-stricken village and stuff. I didn't realize that it was the impact it could have on something like birth trauma. So yeah, my maternity leave was kind of at that point kind of just scarred with all this, like me trying to just get through every day and trying to learn how to kind of cope with a newborn whilst also having these internal struggles. There were a lot of times as well I couldn't leave the house and felt very stuck and always felt like I was doing the wrong thing, like I wasn't a good enough mum for my son. But yeah, so I started on medication. I then got a therapist, and by the time I decided to return to work, it was definitely the right time for me because my mental health was improving. I was getting a bit better, and I actually needed that. So I returned to my workplace, and they knew obviously that I had experienced all of this during pregnancy and after pregnancy. So they were so good, so much support. They were amazing. They adjusted my hours, gave me flexible working, and all of that stuff. I then left that job to take on a really good opportunity at a startup as their kind of leading their marketing team, and then got made redundant from that job. Um, and it was at that point when I realized like everything I had been through in that whole period gave me such a huge amount of resilience that I was like, I've always wanted to like run my own business and be like a marketing agency. And I was like, do you know what? If you can get through all the stuff you've just got through, you can run a business. So yeah, I took the leap, and here I am a year later with the business absolutely thriving. So yeah.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you so much for just, being totally vulnerable, raw, real, and sharing it, because I think so many mums listening will resonate with that. And we've all got different birth stories. And when we first fall pregnant, we have that dream of it all being glowing, all being fine, and being and just a baby suddenly appearing. And it's not always that case, is it? And I had a difficult time too, that I went through a 42-hour labor, and he was 3 weeks early. And then he just decided once the waters broke that he just maybe wasn't going to come out after all and stay put. And it was just exhausting. And then trying to get him to feed, and he wouldn't take. And it was just so not how I pictured it. But, he's absolutely fine. He's one, I mean, he's 13 now. I can't believe I'm saying that. But, but I still have just like some traumas from that experience. And I didn't go through half of what you went through. And I think it's nice to know, and it's just amazing that you can share that and just give that comfort, encouragement, support to all of the other mums out there, knowing that it is okay that we can have that tough time, but actually that something good has come from it, that all of that experience you've had And you're so right, that does all of those things that we go through gives us that resilience. And you just think, well, if we can do that, we can do anything. And let's dive into that, because I know that's something that you shared when you shared about coming onto the podcast, was how that inner strength and resilience being a mum gives us and how it can help us thrive. Do you want to just share more of what you've learned about that and how that's able to help you thrive in your business?
Yeah, so because I am quite a young mum, so I'm only 29 now. My son's almost 3, so I had him mid 20s, like very young. And I think I was quite naive at that point. Doing what all 20-year-olds do. Like I was going out, I was drinking, I smoked, I did all the things that they tell you not to do because it was like, oh, I'm young, I'm careless, I'm free, I can do whatever. And then suddenly getting that positive pregnancy test and being like, oh gosh, I got to grow up now. I think what happened with me when my son finally arrived, because I was probably still in my pregnancy, that young-minded person of, oh, I'll be able to get my life completely back and go out and do everything. Like that did not happen. It was very much overnight, like you actually have to keep this thing alive now. Um, and I always say to people, like, if you can deal with a child that doesn't sleep, you can deal with anything.
That's
So
so true.
I remember days when I'd literally have like 2 hours sleep and then be able to go and do loads of stuff in the day with him. And it just, I think having a kid kind of gives you that confidence, like that inner ability of, well, I've kept this thing alive that is like the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And he's thriving, he's happy, he's healthy, he's all the things that you want your children to be. And that only stems from the way that we've parented and we've looked after him and we've nurtured him. So I think that kind of just gave me this confidence of like, you're a really good mum and you're actually really good at what you do as well, because you're able to balance all these things and make it all work for the family, for him and for yourself. So yeah, it's a weird one. I always say being a mum is like my superpower because it is like, I think if I didn't have him, I'd still be that young person who just kind of just did whatever. It's like it's not about me anymore. It's about him and our family and making that a happy and healthy and safe place.
Yeah, I love that. That is so true. And I was literally going to say the same. It's like a smiley way when you said the superpower thing. I think being a mum is actually our superpower because, I can't keep a houseplant alive for 5 minutes. So the fact that I've managed to get my son to 13, I'm quite proud of that. And, and I can remember like the first time we brought him home and my husband and I sitting on the sofa, he's still in his car seat and we're looking at each other and we're like, what do we do now? And it just,
Yeah.
and it is such like that realization of like that we are not the most important thing anymore. This tiny little bubba needs us. We've got to keep them alive, and if we can do that, we literally can do anything. And I think that is such a great like confidence boost and the resilience and the inner strength of whatever we're struggling with, that we can do that. And I think so much it's the same in our businesses as well, because our businesses, we start because we're passionate about something. We know that we've got something to give and offer and we want to help people, but our businesses become our babies as well, don't they? So they're kind of
Yeah.
our little thing that we nurture and we want to grow, and we need that inner resilience because we are taking care of everything and responsible for everything in order to make it happen. And I think definitely is that is one thing that mums in business have, I think, as a superpower, is that we are so used to juggling all of the things, to focusing where it needs to go, to know that it's not all about us, that we need to what we can do, and we can bring and take all of that into our businesses to help them grow and thrive. And that is just something that is definitely our superpower. But we also need to take care of ourselves too, don't we? So, and that's exactly what we're going to dive in today, about protecting our mental health. So like with everything that you've been through and knowing that, and the work you've had to do to help you sort of like overcome some of your anxiety, protecting your mental health, like when you went back to work and now in our businesses, because I think as mums in business trying to juggle all the things, it's tough at the best of times to put our self-care first, and isn't it, and take care of our own mental health and well-being, that when we're then running a business and you throw that into the mix, it gets dropped even more to the bottom of the list, doesn't it? So what would you say some of your tips are for like making sure that we are doing that and putting our well-being first, and like the importance of it? Why does it matter so much?
So for me, I did a really bad job of this at the start of my business and I completely burnt out by the December. And then it gave me a chance to actually like sit back and reflect and be like, right, you're not allowing that to happen again because you were actually a really grumpy mum over Christmas, which should be a really exciting time for your son. So I was like, right, there's going to be steps now put in place. And I'm quite an avid gym goer. So I absolutely love going to the gym. And if I don't go to the gym, I am miserable. So I now block out time in my calendar every day. Don't make it every day, but I block it out, being like, right, I'm going to go to the gym because for me, that is the best thing for my mental health. I know that by going to do that, it just makes me happy, kind of gives me all the stuff that my brain is still missing because I still have the depression and the PTSD. So it's kind of like helping that balance. Um, so the gym is like my main thing, but also really working with what are your values. And I think as a business owner, when I started, I was like, I need to ensure, especially working with clients, that the clients themselves align with what I believe. Because if they don't, firstly, I'm not going to be passionate about them, which means
Mm.
that my marketing is not going to be as good. Because if they sell like tractors, I don't care about tractors. Like, I'm never going to be able to market that in a good, efficient way. So it was to me, it was like kind of looking at what are my values and really working my business around that. And we look at obviously, I know that I'm quite empathetic. I really care about well-being. I really care about children, which is why I've kind of naturally fallen into this. I've now worked with a lot of ed tech companies because I was like, that aligns fully with what I believe.
Mhm.
Um, so that's probably my second tip is like really look at your values if you're a business owner. Make sure everything aligns with that because then you're doing a good job and you're looking after your well-being by doing that. You're not getting stressed when you're
Yeah.
working with someone you just don't care about. And then my third tip is that support network. And when everyone says it takes a village to raise a baby, I don't think it takes a village necessarily nowadays. I think it takes you a remote village and your remote support system. Because yeah, the community aspect is not there anymore, is it really? But I found some really good support networks. So I'm part of a group called Mums in Marketing, and that in itself is amazing because it is people like me doing what I do, and we're just a really good support network for each other. But then also having the family and my husband just kind of always giving me that push that I need. I'll be like, I've had a really crap day. And he'll be like, what actually happened? And we'll sit there and he'll like let me vent and all of this stuff, which is really helpful having that support network in the house where I can actually just complain to him and then kind of go, oh yeah, okay, maybe I was actually in the wrong there. Like, but yeah, I think it's like getting that right balance of like physical and just good mental well-being. Um, and yeah, I will say that having my own business has improved my sleep, which I think is absolutely mad because I'm so tired because there's so much going on in my brain. I get into bed and I'm like asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow.
Brilliant. That's such a great way to start a business, reason to start a business. Start your business and you can sleep better. I probably would
Yeah.
say the same actually. It's very true for me. I'm so exhausted because my brain doesn't stop that I'm just, and I think it helps when you're doing your business and it's something that you're passionate about. And if it's something that you enjoy doing, it fits around your family's needs, that is good for your mental health and well-being, isn't it? So by nature, you are actually then going to sleep better because you're not feeling stressed and exhausted. And they are such great tips. And I think definitely that first one. I mean, I'm not a gym bunny at all. I cannot bear the gym. As if I did that, that just wouldn't happen. But I love going for walks, and I know that that is something that I really enjoy. And I can put a podcast in, I can catch up on that, and I'll just go for a wander. And it's just good to just get out and do something. So I think whatever it is, whether it is gym, walking, swimming, it doesn't matter. It's tapping
Yeah.
into something, isn't it, that fills your cup, that makes you feel good. And I love that you shared it's not just good for your like your physical health, but it really helps you, that is your thing that fills your cup mental health wise as well, and refuels you. So I think the first thing for us to do really is just to ask ourselves, what do we enjoy doing? What fills our cup? What do we used to do before we had our kids that we stopped doing that we could bring back in, that we know is good? Because we know what is good for our mental health, don't we, naturally anyway? We know when we feel cruddy that something's missing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I always, sorry, my voice. So I always say, like, my husband says it, he'll be like, you haven't been to the gym this week. And he's like, I can tell you haven't been to the gym because you're grumpy and you're miserable and you're about to cry at the TV. He's like, make sure you get that exercise because, yeah, it is what makes me a better me and makes me
Mhm.
happy. So it's kind of like just making sure that, yeah, you kind of tune in with what actually is the thing that makes you happy and then ensuring that you're doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the exercises that I love doing. I always get my clients to when we very first start working together, when we go through my 4 pillar framework of love your family, love your home, love your business, and love yourself. But we always start with the love yourself pillar because they always come to me that thinking that it's the business they want to focus on or something else. But actually it's always ourselves and we start with. So one of the exercises I get them to go and do is to go and make that list of 50 things that make them happy. And their faces when I first say 50 things, they're like, 50? I don't think I could come up with five. But once you start doing it, it's amazing how the number of things that you come up, and then it's just like building those back into your day again, because it's so easy just to get into the thick of things, isn't it? And going on autopilot. And then we
Yeah.
haven't done any of those things that lift us up. And like you said with your husband, it's like you haven't been to the gym this week, have you? And my husband's the same. If I haven't been doing the things that fill me up, he's like, you need to start taking your own advice. Come on, Sarah, go and do something that, go and do that. And it's so important, isn't it? So, yeah, I love that. And then the values, that is key because if we need to attract one to know what our values are and put them out there so that we can attract our dream clients. But also knowing that they've got the same values as us. Like you say, if someone's coming in wanting to do tractoring, that is just not going to fill your cup, is it? And that will affect your mental health. It will affects your desire to want to get up and go to work in the morning. It's going to leave you frustrated after you've been on calls with clients that you don't resonate with. It's amazing when you start digging into all of this, how all of those little things really do impact and can affect our mental health, don't they?
100%. And I do think, yeah, it's that element of, I remember my therapist being like, you need to align with your values again. Because she was like, you're making yourself unhappy by trying to live up to this person you're not. And she was like, let's strip it right back. And I think because of her, when I started the business, I was like, okay, like a business is kind of like a kind of subsection of me. And it has to work with my values. So it was like, right, let's look at what they are and really nail them down. And yeah, so I definitely owe all of that to my therapist.
Amazing. Because I was the same when I first started out. I knew that I wanted to have my business that it fits around my family, but I was making like I hit burnout when I first started that I thought I had to be all in. I had to work all the hours, and it was crazy. And when I stopped and again, I sat down one evening with my husband and pulled out because he's my biggest supporter and cheerleader, bless him. And he's like, well, what are your values? He said, are you actually honouring those at the moment? Because you're saying that it's family, but you're working all hours under the sun. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
crap, you're right. So I needed to rehome and look at all of those. So things for me, like it's the family is number one without a doubt, and balance and personal growth. All of those things matter to me. And I just, I want to know that when I'm working with somebody that they have the same values as that because I love working most with mums that have an online business. And when they come to me and they've got the same values and things, we know we're going to be in the right place and we're going to get somewhere together. It's so important. And it really does shape our businesses, doesn't it? And it really helps us align when things come our way and opportunities come our way, not just clients, but all kinds of other things that come our way in our businesses. We can check in with those values and ask how they fit, don't they? And whether that sits right for us to say yes or no to something, and also helps us work out whether it's going to impact our mental health.
100%. It really, what I found, the point where I was like, this actually is so important and so good that I did it was when I was hiring, because I went through the whole recruitment process with loads of people. And then for each of them, I kind of looked at it in terms of, do they actually slot in with what the values of the company are? And the person I ended up hiring is exactly like me. Like everything that she puts on her high value, like the high priority list for her values, aligns with what I do as well, which naturally makes a good team because you're both like, right, this client is being really difficult. You've got my back. We can get rid because they do not align. And quite frankly, I'm the kind of person who's like, I don't care about the money. I care about whether you're happy, which is probably not the best way to run a business, but I'm kind of very much on the terms of, with everything I've been through, I want to ensure that life is now happy. I don't want
Mhm.
any stress. And if someone's going to cause me stress, it's not worth the money. It's just the same with my team. It's very much right. We all know that again for us, like family, flexibility, having that balance, also important. And yeah, when I was hiring, that was the most important thing. We got policies written, like really good mental health policies, really good maternity policies, return to work policies, all of these things where it was like, that's what I needed. So my team are going to always have that. So yeah, I think it really helped there as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You took everything that you learned previously, that what you could then bring into your business, to know that what you needed back then is now you're able to provide to all of your staff and everything. That is, and your team. That is amazing. That is awesome. Let's dive in quickly, because the other third tip you mentioned was about finding your tribe and having that community. And it's so true, isn't it? Now the local community just isn't what it was anymore, is it? So everything is like all online. The majority of my connections, my biz buddies and everything, they're all online, and half of them I've never actually met in person. So but it is so important to have that tribe and that community around you, isn't it? So that we know that we're all going through the same thing, we're not on our own, and they know that they get what we do as well, they understand it all. So what sort of benefits have you found from having and finding that community, and how did you go out to actually find the community that was right for you?
Yeah, so I did go through quite a few communities before I found the one where I was like, oh, that really aligns with me. So I joined like female founder communities and stuff like that, but I just didn't get the same vibe because it was like a lot of them were still quite young, didn't have kids, didn't really understand the overwhelm that I was feeling. So I was like, they're not for me. Whereas then when I actually got a Facebook ad for the Mums in Marketing group, and I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. So I joined. And it is a Facebook group. There's like a membership site as well, but on the Facebook group, you can just share anything from like, how do I do this thing on this marketing platform? Or my child is not sleeping, send me wine. It's those kind, it goes all of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that is just so me, like the place where you've kind of got so many mums together who all have the shared passion of marketing and all have the same struggles, all who have to do the 10,000 things that us mums have to do a day. So it was definitely, I went through so many, but I'm really glad that Facebook ad appeared for me one day and I just signed straight up. But yeah, I think what's really nice is that there's like little local subsections of that group now. So there's like the Essex mums where we can all meet up. And so it's really nice because it's kind of, although it is mostly online, we're now having these little bits where we can all go meet up and actually vent, I think, to each other, which is what
That is,
we need.
that's what you need, isn't it? That is amazing. And that's where the community really comes in, as being a mum and having your own business, is that you can just be you, and it doesn't all have to be about business, and you can just share this, having that space where you can share your wins and your struggles and your frustrations and your joys and all of that stuff, isn't it? It's so, so important. And then knowing that you've got the family community at home with your husband and everything as well, that's so, so important. So going back to like looking at burnout, so we both mentioned that we struggle with burnout in the beginning, and we've now shared your tips for looking at how to make your well-being a priority and all of that. Have you got any other like tips of just sort of like being like self-aware and how you recognize whether or not you're getting down towards that path? So just in case anybody is listening and they're feeling a bit like that right now, what would you sort of say of how to recognize it, and then how to maybe sort of some of the things you've done to kind of reel it back in so that you don't hit that burnout again?
Yeah, so I think with me, I know I'm going towards burnout when I'm waking up constantly at night, really stressed, going to sleep. And when you actually can't just turn your brain off, it's like you're suddenly thinking about every single thing that needs to be done for the business. And it's never about like all the other stuff that you have to do as a mum. It's always like it'll be, oh my God, I need to work out how to get this amount of clients so that we can afford this kind of, and it's just all those things. So it really affects my sleep when I'm burning out. Um, and it really affects my mood. Like I will just be really teary or really short. And I always notice it more when I'm snapping at my son. Like my husband, he's a husband, he gets snapped at all the time. Like you didn't do the
It's
dishwasher.
law, isn't
Yeah, it's like you married me, you know what you were getting.
it?
It's when I get really like I have no patience with my son that I'm like, you are really approaching burnout now because he should never get the brunt of my frustration. And when he is getting it, that's when I'm like, no, like you have not taken care of yourself.
Mhm.
Um, but I think at the start, I was quite foolish and thought that I could do what I'm doing in 4 days a week, which I think now would be possible because I've got the team around me. But I had that huge mum guilt at the time where I was still working while having my son on a Mondays and stuff. So we kind of at that point in the December like sat down. My husband was like, "You are burnt out. You're stressed. You're grumpy. You need to sort this out." And we kind of realized like it's not actually good for Dougie to have a mum around on a Mondays who's not with him. Like, I was giving him to the grandparents, being like, I can't, I've got too much to do. So we ended up putting him in nursery full time. And actually, it really helped because it means that now on a Monday, I still kind of see it as a non-working day, but it's like a checking emails, kind of doing all the stuff that I actually need to get done. So I do work, although I say I'm not. It's just a bit more of a laid back kind of Monday, which I think is really good for me because it gives me that ability to still do the 5 days a week, but kind of reduce it into a bit more of a manageable 5 days rather than what I was doing.
That's great that you've done that, and it's helped you because it helps all around, doesn't it? It helps you do the work in your business. It gives you that time. So like you say, even though you are working, it's more relaxed. You can take some time out for yourself if you want to, but your boy's happy in nursery doing his thing. And that mum guilt is so real, isn't it? Because I was exactly the same. I was at one point where I was sitting there with, my laptop one side of me, and my bubba was between my legs watching TV, and my husband walked in. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, trying to work, and trying to
Yeah.
look after my boy. So we had the exact same conversation, and it can be, and it did take me a few days, and even a couple of weeks, to wrestle myself with like that mum guilt of like, is this bad that I'm putting my kid into childcare so that I can work? And then I just thought, well, actually, if I was working a 9 to 5, he would have had to have gone into childcare anyway, wouldn't have had any choice. But actually, this is a good decision for all of us, because then I'm able to focus on my business without feeling guilty about it. He's having a great time getting messy and covered in paint at play school, the stuff I would never let him do around the house anyway, because he just makes so much mess. He's come home and had a great day. I've done what I've needed to do. And then we get to have that time together when he gets home. And it was the best decision that I made. And although it took me a few weeks to get my head around that mum guilt of, is it okay that I'm doing this? It was the best decision. And I'm so glad that you shared that, because we can really beat ourselves up of, are we neglecting our kids, and we are making our business more of a priority by doing things like putting our kids into daycare. But actually, no. So yeah, we just have to make those decisions sometimes to free ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I felt so guilty, but then he actually has more fun at nursery than he does with me. And I kind of looked at it at that point, being like, he actually asked to go to nursery. Like this morning, he got really annoyed because he had to wait 20 minutes before I could drop him off. And he was like, I want to go to nursery now. So I'm like, so he clearly enjoys nursery. I enjoy work. I enjoy having a business. And actually, we're all happier because of it. But yeah, I feel like you see so many mums go back to work part-time that you feel like society's teaching you that's the norm. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be. I think you have to do what's right for you. And for me, it is being kind of full-time working because that's what makes me happy. I like having my brain busy and working, and it makes the evenings so much more special. Like clients know between about 5:30 to 8:30 in the evenings, you are not getting hold of me, however urgent it is, because my son is my priority in those hours and they are not disturbing that. So I think it makes it so much more special. And then the weekends are more special because it's like, these are our 2 days that we really get together each week and we can go do stuff that you enjoy. Although he's always grumpy at the weekends at the moment because I think he's so tired. So I always say I probably get the worst days of the week with him. But yeah, it means it's so much more special. So it's definitely got rid of that mum guilt because I'm like, he loves his time at nursery much more than he loves his time with me.
Oh, I love that you've done that though, because it taps into those values of family, doesn't it? And making it fit round and doing it so that it fits around what matters. And then structuring our days and weeks so that we then have that quality, precious time together. Even if they are grumpy on the weekend, it makes it so much more worthwhile, doesn't it? Brilliant. This has been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate you sharing all of your vulnerabilities at the beginning and being raw and real. But I think it's really good just to dig in like the behind the scenes of day-to-day family life, isn't it? Of what goes on around at home and structuring it all and doing what feels right, asking what our values are, making sure we've got our community, and just being in touch with it's okay, and that we should be putting our mental health and well-being first, and recognizing what matters to us and what fills our cup, so that we can be a better mum, so that we can be a better boss, so that we can do all the things, but also be happy in ourselves too. Thank you so much. As we wrap up, I've got one question I like to ask all of my guests, but before I do that and we share where everybody can find you if they want to reach out and connect more with you, have you got any like just one final thought or one final thing that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I think I'd probably say that it is absolutely okay to not be okay, like that good old saying. And just ask for help when you need it, because don't do a me and leave it to build and build and build. Get that help when you notice it in yourself, because it will save a lot of time and a lot of sadness.
Amazing. Such a great way to end on it. Thank you so much for sharing that. It is so true. We just need to give ourselves permission to be kind to ourselves, don't we? And yeah, and go and ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking help. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness, isn't it? So
100%.
awesome. Okay, so the question I love to ask all of my guests is, what does being an unapologetic mompreneur mean to you? And how are you showing up unapologetically every day, both as a mum and as the boss of your business?
So I think for me, it is that being able to prioritize your mental well-being and your physical health, and making sure that that's all right, so that you can be a good business owner and a good mom and you're happy. And I also think then it reflects on my team, because it's like, you also have that flexibility. You also have everything that I want, because that is happiness. So yeah, I just think it's actually saying, no, I'm taking this time for me. And you kind of got to deal with it, because if you don't, you're not getting the better version of me. And that goes for clients, for my business, for my son, for my husband. So yeah, it's kind of just getting rid of all of that mum guilt and being like, no, that actually, there will not be a good mum if I don't do all of these things and take care of myself.
Amazing. I love it. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And if people want to connect with you more, find out about more about what you do with your marketing business and everything else, where can they find you? And I know that you've got a freebie discovery call that people can tap and find out more about how to work with you as well. So do you want to, we'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes, but do you want to just share all of that before we finish up?
So you can go to convert.co.uk. Convert, instead of the E, it's a 3. So we'll definitely put the link in, because it's very confusing. You can book a free discovery call where we'll go through your marketing strategy for you and can give you guidance on that. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn under Rachel Coles, where I am probably the most active. So yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. I will make sure that all of those links are in there. Thank you so much for this. It was brilliant. I felt like, again, as always, I could talk with you for hours about this topic. And it's such an important one that we need to talk about more, because it's okay to talk about it, isn't it? So thank you so much for just sharing and everything that all the tips and everything that you've given us today. It's been amazing. So yeah, thank you.
Right. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. That's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, for watching on YouTube channel, and look forward to chatting with you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.